Hello there. So today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about how e-cigarettes or vaping helps you to quit smoking, because it's not just as simple as picking up an e-cigarette. People have tried for years to quit smoking via things like nicotine patches, chewing gum, etc, etc, and in some cases it works for people, and others it doesn't. So how does vaping, how do e-cigarettes help you to quit smoking? Well, the main problem that smokers have is addiction. And the addiction comes from the nicotine content within cigarettes. Now, nicotine itself is pretty much harmless to the human being, certainly in the quantities that you get from cigarettes and e-cigarettes. Yes, if you drank nicotine, 100% nicotine content, pharmaceutical content, it would probably kill you. But you know, in the quantities you're talking about here, it's a harmless substance, but it's very, very addictive. And the other part of the addiction is the problem you have with something to do with your hands. I find that a lot of my customers, even when they're down to zero nicotine, they still carry on vaping because they want that thing to do with the hands. They inhale. The whole process of smoking is actually part of the habit, part of the addiction. And they worry that if they stop using the e-cigarettes, they'll go back to smoking a cigarette, because they'll just pick one up to do it's that thing with the hands. So e-cigarettes give you something that nicotine patches don't give you. The first thing they give you is the nicotine hit. Now, this is a bottle of e-juice, 10 ml, or e-liquid, 10 milligrams, and available at www.cloudvapinguk.co.uk. Now, this particular one contains 18 milligrams of nicotine, and that's the highest you can get now, certainly as of 20th of May, and because of the TPD and all the rest of it. So 18 milligrams is the highest strength nicotine you can get legally. Now, so how does this help you quit smoking? Well, first of all, at 18 milligrams, what you're going to get is you're going to satisfy your nicotine craving by using this. However, you don't want to stay on this forever, because the idea is that ultimately you want to give up smoking. So you need to wean yourself off the nicotine addiction, because once you've weaned yourself off the nicotine addiction, you're no longer going to get that craving. Then it's just about whether or not you can stand the habit with the hand and all the rest of it. So what you do is you start off on these. A heavy smoker would start off on 18 milligrams. Get used to using these and get used to the e-cigarette. And after a short while, in some cases just 3 or 4 weeks, in some cases 3 or 4 months. But after a while, what you would then do is, a lot of my customers come in and they buy these for £3 each, or 4 for a tenner. So what they'll do is they'll buy 4 British tobacco or menthol or whatever flavour they want when they first start 18 milligrams. Then after a while, what they'll do is they'll come in and I'll say to them, well, you're not going to drop down to 12, which is the next level down. And they'll go, oh, well, you know, I like these 18s, blah, blah, blah. I tried a 12 once and I still had that craving. I said, why don't you, because you're buying 4, why don't you buy 2 18s and 2 12s? And have 2 tanks, or clearomisers. And what you do is, when you first get up in them, after a while, so you've been using 18s for a while, after a while, when you first get up in the morning and you want that hit of nicotine and your body's craving it, what you do is you use your tank with the 18 milligram nicotine in it, and you vape on that, satisfy that craving, and then switch to the 12 milligram. Use that maybe during the day while you're at work or something, or out at the shops or whatever, you know, going about your daily business. Later on, pick up the 18 milligram, satisfy the craving again, and then go back to the 12. And swap between the two for a while. And what will actually happen is, after a short while, your body will start getting used to the reduced amount of nicotine going through your system, and the craving will become less, and you'll abandon the 80 milligrams and stick to 12. And then you'll stick to 12 for a while. Then what do you do? Well, I'll tell you. What you then do is, after a while, you've been using the 12s for a while, you then buy a couple of 6s. So you now got a couple of 6 milligrams mixed with the 12 milligram. You go through the same process again. Just get your body used to using the 6 milligram nicotine as opposed to the 12, but keep the 12 there for when you've really got that craving first thing in the morning. And then eventually, after another short while, your body will become used to the intake you're getting from the 6 milligram nicotine, and you carry on just using that, and you'll just use 6s all the time. So then what do you do? Well, I'm going to tell you. You then start buying it. You buy a couple of 3 milligrams, and you go through that same process again. So you're slowly, over a period of time, weaning your body off that nicotine intake. Now you could do that with nicotine patches. That's pretty much how nicotine patches work. You start off with higher strength ones that go into your, on your arm there, higher strength ones that go into your system quickly, and then over time you reduce the amount of nicotine that's going into your system. And this is a similar sort of process. The difference is here is that you've now got something to do with your hands all the time. So you've got that motion of smoking, inhaling, etc., doing tricks, whatever it happens to be. So, and then eventually what you're going to do is you're going to get down to the 3s and 0s. Now at that point, when you're down to 0 nicotine, that's it. You've effectively quit smoking, in the sense that you have beaten the addiction to nicotine. However, you've still got the habit. And that's what I find a lot of feedback from my customers, is that when they get down to 3 or 0, they carry on using the e-cigarette, because what they're finding is that if they try and stop using the e-cigarette and they're around smokers, they'll pick up a cigarette, because it's that habit of this all the time, and that continues going. So there's no need to think that, oh well, I'm going to quit the e-cigarettes, blah blah blah. Actually, you don't have to quit e-cigarettes. You kind of, once you get down to 0, you're no longer addicted. Now it's a lifestyle choice. It's a choice that you make to carry on, because you want to keep up that habit, and that habit stops you from picking up cigarettes. And that's the difference between this and nicotine patches, is that you're still keeping up that habit, and that gets you off the tobacco. So, and also when you get down to the sort of like the 6s and 3s and 0s, you now might want to start thinking about exploring other possibilities in terms of flavours, because what you tend to find is that by the time you get to that stage, you're no longer smoking. And again, I'm just getting the feedback I get from my customers. By the time they get down to 6s, certainly 6, they're no longer vaping on tobacco flavoured e-liquid. They're experimenting with other flavours. You've got a world out there. You've got strawberry milk, rhubarb and custard, one of my favourites, cappuccino, a range of menthols, cherry menthol, Heisenberg of course, which is very popular, etc, etc. But then you go on to what's called premium liquids, which you generally need a bigger bit of kit for, in terms of the hardware that you use for vaping, a mod and a tank sort of thing that'll sub home, because you're now talking about thicker liquids, but the flavours that you can get from these premium juices, as they're called, is amazing. Custard tart, and I've started stocking Vape Dinner Lady and Mum's Home Baked, and the flavours that you can get from these liquids are tremendous. Friends of mine and customers, they tell me it's like smoking sweets, in some respects. So there's a whole world of flavours out there that can keep you interested enough to stop you from going back to cigarettes, because you still got that particular habit. something to do with your hands. So I hope that this has explained a little bit about how you use vaping to how to use vaping to quit smoking.